Hello everyone and welcome to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue. We have plenty of wrestling news as always to run through with you today as we get closer and closer to Bad Blood, the big show over the course of the weekend, not to be confused with Big Show. We will be talking, of course, Hell in a Cell opening Bad Blood, talk of the main event being confirmed. We're also going to talk the implications of this, including the possibilities of The Rock. We're going to run through our Bad Blood predictions one more time. If you've seen the short, I do it in quick fire. If you want to skip that, it's only 50 seconds. We'll also talk a little bit about the $900 million AEW TV deal and why it still doesn't mean that still means that AEW isn't quite profitable yet. Few steps to go through first. We're going to talk the reuniting of the Hurt Business, this time in AEW, as well as a little update on the Lucha Brothers and the Motor City Machine Guns. We're going to talk Elimination Chamber coming to the UK, what's going on with Sami Zayn and Gunther, as well as WWE interest in a prominent figure in Ring of Honor. We're going to discuss why Mercedes money continues to be positive about Vince McMahon. And finally, the recent news from WrestleVotes that Becky Lynch is still recognised as part of the WWE roster. We'll be diving into all of that and sharing as much detail as we possibly can. We are live on both YouTube and Twitch. Thank you, Michael, for subscribing for a record-setting 43rd month. That is 43 months that we've been doing this because Michael is very much the yardstick. As we go through this, we'll also, of course, be answering as many of your questions as we can. If there are topics you want to have discussed, make sure to let me know. But we also want to try and get this show seen by as many people as possible. So if you can, please remember to hit like, every comment, everything boosts that show. This show is boosted essentially by engagement. So if you are talking amongst yourselves, you are helping this show get discovered. If you're hitting like when you join, you are helping the show get discovered. Everything that can be done massively helps. It's not about donations. It's not about spending money. It's not even about subscriptions and channel memberships. Literally, the more active you are, even just talking amongst yourselves, the more this show grows and continues. I can see several of you already doing so, and I very much appreciate all of you for continuing this. One more to 20 likes. Let's start with our top story then. As per always, we will go for our top story, and then we'll catch up with the chat one more time. Our top story is that PWInsider have confirmed that Hell in a Cell will be opening Bad Blood instead of main eventing. I was really hoping that Hell in a Cell would main event because of the level of carnage here. It is once again a moment that a Bloodline member has gotten one over on CM Punk and really does bring memories back of that Royal Rumble when CM Punk was beaten and knocked out of the WrestleMania main event they'd been desperately waiting for by The Rock. People are very excited for the possibility that having the Bloodline tag match in the main event means that we might have an expansion of the Bloodline. As you might expect, there's a lot of excitement about the possibility of The Rock. Now, people are getting very excited, and I would suggest that people calm down. When it comes to premium live events, tends to be that's not when people make big surprise returns, though there are some exceptions, Roman Reigns being one of them. The main reason for that is because the Roman Reigns return was also planned by The Rock and his personal writer, Brian Gewirtz. So when it comes to the Bloodline, The Rock is heavily involved in planning, and it is meaning it is a bit of a throwback, a bit of a classic, a bit old school. It does mean things are a little bit different there. The Rock has been involved in planning the Bloodline storyline, including this particular beat of that Bloodline storyline. He's expected to be in Georgia. He's there right now, but whether he'll be there tomorrow for Bad Blood, it is pure speculation at this point. The Rock is involved in planning. I cannot at this point say with any certainty whether he will be there in attendance for Bad Blood. Spider-Ball says, hello Tom, really don't have any hopes for Rhea versus Liv at Bad Blood, basically because it will be at least another month watching Liv's title reign. Yeah, but a match can still be good. It sounds like you're not necessarily a fan of watching wrestling, you just want the story, so you might as well just watch highlights, to be fair. Joey says, I really hope WWE has something big planned for the main event because otherwise it's going to be a letdown. People do tend to overexcite themselves on these sort of topics. Spider-Ball says, seems every time Roman main events a pay-per-view, people don't like it. Tomorrow it will be Roman's first match since WrestleMania. It will, however, there are many exceptions. WrestleMania, for example, as well as the Royal Rumble when Sami Zayn turned on him. So I wouldn't say that's a hard and fast rule. Q43 says, hey Tom, how you been? It's been a little while. Welcome. Good to see you, mate. It has been a little while, but it's nice to see you, as always. Cecil says, good afternoon, Tom from the USA. Where are people hailing from? I used to do quite a lot of check-ins here. Where are people hailing from? I'm UK, as you know. Welcome, Cecil from the USA. Blizzgamer says, howdy, everyone. Hello, Blizzgamer. And Sean says, does Liv lose or win at Bad Blood? My predictions are coming very shortly. That'll be our next piece of news to cover. Kieran says, how do, Tom? Hope you and the family are good. Doing very good, thank you. I've spent quite a lot of the last few days continuing to tear this office apart. You can see what you know what I want you to know. You know what I want you to know. You're just a puppet. If you got the full angle, carnage, but fun. Hello, Death Metal Lad. Welcome to the show. Kieran says, what's going on with the White Six? For me, it's been a bit of a letdown. They are waiting for their next opponents to be more available so that they can get stuck in. Aaron says, good afternoon / evening to everyone. Khalid says, hey, Tom, great to see you again, mate. Sorry I've not been here. Spoiler warning. Just been working a lot and glad to be back. Welcome back, Khalid. Always good to see you, mate. I'm never annoyed when people aren't regularly here. We all have lives. I'm just glad to see so many people continually turn up. Spider-Boss says, about Mercedes' opinion about Vince, I think it's just Mercedes' opinion. We will be discussing that later. Marcel says, watch the pig. Jar Game says, happy Friday, Tom. Got my question for you. You can take a superstar from the 90s, bring them into today's WWE, but you have to send a current star to the past. Who would you pick? For me, it's HBK for Drew. We are still very early on the show, Jar Game, so I'm going to return to that later. After about the half-hour mark, repeat that for me, because otherwise I'm going to lose the chat very quickly. But I appreciate it. Bring it back. Kieran says, watch that bloody pig. Dylan says, just want to say I don't see The Rock returning tomorrow. Like, Cody's probably just playing the fans. He knows people are going to be mad because Roman and Cody main event instead of Punk and Drew. Dylan says, I'm not even expecting The Rock or, don't know who that is, or anyone else to show up. People are just putting it out of proportion because he said, and I'd imagine there was supposed to be more there. Joe's excited for SmackDown. Sid says, if you're a TNA fan, that's more on TNA. Spider-Boss says, Cody told on his interview in the Pat McAfee show at Bad Blood there'll be implications for his match at Crown Jewel. Yeah. Pretty standard. I'm confident that we'll see a match at Crown Jewel involving a championship. One says, according to Dave Meltzer, he said Shane McMahon will not be part, nor is he expected for the Jon Moxley faction feud angle. For anyone regularly watching, spoiler warning, that likely won't surprise you. There's a few things we're going to talk about today as regards Dave Meltzer, which are not going to surprise you because I mentioned them a couple of weeks ago. Sean says, hi Tom, welcome Sean. Kieran says, there is a pig watching us. Matthews from New York City, entertainment from Phoenix, Arizona. We've got some widespreads here. Millennial Noob says, hello Mr. Colohue, how are you doing today? Looking forward to the Hell in a Cell match between Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. Good to know. I think that's the one I'm most excited for as well, to be honest. Kelly says, hey Tom, hope you're doing well tonight. Doing very well, thank you Kelly. Good to see you again. Hope you have fun with this one. And Dad says, big up Tom, do you think Seth shows up tomorrow? Also, watch the pig. No, I don't. I don't think there's any benefit to having Seth Rollins on the pay-per-view card. Joe's from Norwich. Spider-Boss says, I'm a fan of wrestling. I like when the storyline's good. Liv versus Rhea rivalry has been mostly about Dominic. Not unfair. Marcel is from the Netherlands. Cecil is from New Orleans, Louisiana. New Orleans. Sean says, your thoughts on Cora Jade costing Julia the title? I think a lot of people did expect it. I was hoping we'd get a nice clean match. Didn't happen, but it does mean that it's not an obvious finish. Not necessarily a good thing or bad thing, but not obvious. Juan says, according to Mercedes Money herself, she said she hopes Shane McMahon comes to AEW. She says the locker room is all in on it. I mean, they're not, but she knows how to make a headline. Metal Mama says, hello, welcome Metal Mama, good to see you. And Leon says, hi Tom, hope you're doing well. Doing very well, thank you Leon. Welcome to the show. Daz says, in Wales. Kieran is from Leeds in Yorkshire. I'm a Yorkshire boy myself, what can I say, from Hull. Leon's from Derby. I've been to Derby quite recently, went there for a football game. Doing well, thank you, Metal Mama. And also, I just really like that heart. That's a lovely graphic. Dylan's from Ireland. I'd imagine that's Republic. Because Northern Irish just say, like, Northern Ireland. And call Republic Southern Ireland. It's probably what I should go with, being Irish myself. Maggie's from Scotland. Will says, have you heard anything on who will be AJ Styles' next programme? Not as of yet. I'd imagine we're going to find out fairly soon. I'm expecting some matches against Carmelo Hayes, Andrade, and essentially the US title picture. Spider-Boss says, seen at The Rock, Undertaker praise Vince and nothing happens. Mercedes praises Vince and people on social media complain. People on social media complain about all of those people. I don't know why you're not seeing it. I'd imagine because you're very clued in on what Mercedes is doing, but not so clued in on what other people are doing. Sean says, I'll get to that later, Sean. Spider-Boss says, according to Fightful, Adam Cole was backstage on AEW this week, which is good news. Appreciate sourcing as well, Sean. I will get to that later. Ray says, do you think Shane McMahon will join AEW? No. Calvin says, hey Tom, have you heard about the WCW legend who'll be at Bad Blood? No. Millennial is from Chicago, Illinois. There's a place in Oregon that's called Bend, Chris? Interesting. Bailey says the Bailey-Nia match has no momentum entering this weekend. When do they pull the trigger on the cash-in? I'd imagine it's a little later yet, but they're definitely going to be teasing it. Khalid is from West London. Calvin says, do you have a feeling Giovanni Vinci may be getting buried? No. If you wanted to bury him, he wouldn't be on TV. Next up then, I want to recap the Bad Blood prediction before we catch up with the chat once more. Pardon me. There are 84 people currently watching, and only the 30 likes so far. I think we can do a little bit better than that. Let's get those thumbs up coming. I've just quote tweeted the tweet that I put out announcing the show. It's already had more than 1,100 views. If you're able to, if you're someone who uses that platform, please consider quote tweeting and sharing the news that this show is taking place. So far, 20 people have clicked on that link, and that means 20 more views, which really does help the growth of the channel. So if you're on Twitter, please do consider sharing the pinned tweet that I have, which is announcing this here show. Bad Blood. There are 5 matches lined up at current, and I'm just going to quick fire through my predictions for anyone who hasn't seen this Wednesday's PLE Wednesday. If you haven't seen PLE Wednesday, we share a lot of news about the upcoming PLE, a lot of stuff you can't find anywhere else, and a lot of in-depth analysis that you might enjoy. So please do check out the Wednesday video if you're that way inclined. In the meantime, just to recap, if you haven't already seen the short, for Bad Blood, my predictions are CM Punk picks up the win in Hell in a Cell, Drew McIntyre takes some time away till around Royal Rumble time. As per the terms of his contract, it does allow him a few more breaks and opportunities to visit his family. CM Punk, meanwhile, starts his push towards the World Heavyweight Championship until a Seth Rollins gets in his way, likely once again around Royal Rumble time. For the Nia Jax versus Bayley match, I cannot see Bayley regaining that championship. I see this one being more about Tiffany Stratton, and for me, it just makes it a lot more simple if Nia Jax picks up the win there. For Damian Priest versus Finn Balor, I have Finn Balor defeating Damian Priest via Judgment Day shenanigans. I don't think this one ends anytime soon, as disappointed as I am by that prospect. I just don't see it wrapping up with any sort of pace. So I have JD McDonough essentially guaranteeing a win for Finn Balor, and they're going to drag this one out until closer to WrestleMania. For Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan, the Shark Cage match, I have Liv Morgan retaining. I do think at this point we are likely to see Raquel Rodriguez. That very much veers Rhea Ripley into a feud with Raquel Rodriguez, and then they can come back to it around WrestleMania time and work out what the next steps are. I do think we are going to have another Rhea Ripley Liv Morgan match at some point, but I do think a lot of that depends on what the next steps are for Becky Lynch as well, which we don't really know at this point. That leaves us with the main event. I have Roman Reigns pinning Solo Sikoa pretty much clean as you like. While we do have a lot of members of the Bloodline, they are equaled out by members of Cody's little faction amongst Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. Personally, I do see a moment in the ring in which Roman Reigns stands amongst the 3 of them, hands raised. Kevin Owens loses his mind at this, and we head towards another Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes match in Saudi Arabia. That's what I'm personally leaning towards. I don't expect The Rock. I expect Roman Reigns and the Bloodline to go and do their own thing. Kevin Owens, Randy Orton suddenly involved with Cody Rhodes. I do think it's possible that Randy Orton gets the opportunity. That's where we head to, face versus face. And then over time, Randy Orton turns and he's the one to claim the championship after WrestleMania from Cody Rhodes. Those are my predictions. Let me know in the chat what yours are. 39 likes now. One more gets us to 40. Sean says, any more news about Braun Strowman? Apparently he was injured in the last Monster Standing match. The reports are that he strained his groin, which does not sound like fun. Kai says, do you think we'll get Drew versus Wade Barrett? Yeah, why not? Why not kill a bit of time? Dylan says, Tom, you probably didn't watch it, but if you did, what are your thoughts on the Vince McMahon docu-series? I've watched quite a bit of it. I haven't been able to watch all of it just yet, but I've watched quite a bit of it, and I've got to say, most of it isn't necessarily news, specifically for me who's done the research on these things. If you're in fact a regular viewer of this channel, most of it you already know. Though I do think if there's enough interest in that documentary, I should probably follow up with more in-depth stuff on Vince McMahon as a person and just make my own documentaries, because they do pretty well from what I can tell. Sid's from Wickham. Hi Wickham is the only Wickham I'm aware of. Are there multiple Wickhams? Genuinely interested. Didn't know. Spiderball says, I think Julia lost her match versus Roxanne just to keep building her instead of giving her the title immediately. Indeed. Cecil says, I was surprised the Y6 was on a house show. Does it mean anything? No, it means they're regularly wrestling, which is not a bad thing. Daniela says, hi Tom, what do you think we'll see from the AJ Styles return tonight? I think we're going to see AJ Styles involved with people like Carmelo Hayes, Andrade, eventually your LA Knights. Leon says, do you think Omos will ever be used, or does Triple H simply have no interest in using him? Triple H wants to use him, he simply can't come up with a presentation that works. He can't come up with a storyline, he's struggling to find mic time and promo time. He just doesn't seem able to find a way to make it work. I don't think we're going to be paying my rent for me, Kieran, specifically because it's not rent anymore, I have a mortgage now. But I appreciate it anyway. Cecil gives a thumbs up and watches a pig. Maggie says, looking forward to seeing Roman back in the ring. Been watching him in back-to-back matches during his Universal title run. Fantastic. That was indeed quite a while back. What I will say as regards Roman, I do not expect him to do too much wrestling. They are saving him versus Solo Sikoa for later down the line, and they are definitely saving him versus Jacob Fatu for later down the line. I expect most of the work to be done by Cody Rhodes, and then Roman to get the big hot tag. Sid says, do you think AJ Styles will show up at TNA Bound for Glory? If he does, the fans will go crazy. Part of his current contract negotiations are that he wants to work for different companies. TNA has been mentioned a number of times. Daniela says, Tom, you say if Vinci was buried, he wouldn't be on TV, but he hasn't been on TV half the time since he re-debuted recently. They're taking their time. They're making you think he's being buried, so you get behind the guy. That's the plan. That's what they're doing. They're making you think he's being buried, so you support him. That was the intention from day one. Ray says, will Tiffany Stratton turn babyface anytime soon? Yes. King Adam says, Tom, do you see The Rock returning at Bad Blood to screw Roman and Cody Rhodes? No. Spiderball says, I think a Rhea versus Raquel rivalry should be short, so Rhea faces Liv a Saturday night main event. I think that might be when we actually get the Raquel match, but we'll see what happens. Spiderball says, Bayley beating Nia, but Tiffany cashes in. Starting to get Bayley up to the level of Charlotte Flair there. Dad says, do you know if any Raw superstars will be on SmackDown, Tom, like last week with Randy? Randy, to my knowledge, is not in attendance, but will be there tomorrow. Michael says, the first 5 episodes of the Vince documentary is nothing but a documentary on WWE. Still got one more episode to watch. That does seem to be the one. Spiderball says, Roman and Cody win despite the new bloodline getting involved. John says, do you think AJ will be face or heel? I think he'll be heel initially, but quickly end up going face again. I'm excited for a Tuka lead. I'm very, very happy with the actress they got to play Abby. I'm excited to see what she can do with it. Calvin says, Waller versus Fury needs to happen at WrestleMania. They need a way to make it interesting since they're dragging the split out too long. If you want to get so many matches at WrestleMania, is that one you actually put on the card? Calvin's raised a point here. I'd love to get more opinions on this one. Waller versus Fury. Is it a WrestleMania worthy match? Maggie says, loving the sound of Roman pinning Solo clean. Spider Boss wants to have WWE's Omos as Liv and Dom's bodyguard. No intention of that. King Adam says, also, Tom, is there a reason why Drew and CM Punk are not main eventing? Yes, Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is the reason. Corey, another very generous donation. Thank you so much. And I do have news that you'll be interested in. Says Lucha Bros. Bleh. Any news on KO or AJ's contract? Sorry, been a rough week, Tom. No worries, Corey. Please remember to hit a thumbs up on Corey's donation. It's incredibly generous, and it is. We're no longer at a point where it's keeping the lights on. It's certainly making my life easier, and I appreciate you for that. What I will say, Corey, we will talk about the Lucha Brothers soon because there's stuff there. As regards Kevin Owens, WWE remain confident and there doesn't seem to be any issue with the current situation. Kevin Owens is expected to sign a new deal within the next couple of months. As regards AJ Styles, there's a lot of different negotiations actively ongoing. He wants to work with TNA. He wants another run with New Japan. He wants the WWE to make those promises because that's what they were promising Daniel Bryan before he left. So he knows they can make it happen. He wants them to do so for him. Kieran says, do you think that the WWE are going to make a significant change in their booking post-Netflix? Nope. Spider-Boss says, Damian Priest beats Finn Balor. Entertainment says, Omos should join Obafemi and be his enforcer. Obafemi does not need an enforcer. He is his own enforcer. Danielle are also asking face or heel for AJ. As I say, I expect him to come in as a heel to reflect on what he was in the past and slowly to build back up as a face eventually. Spider-Boss says Liv beat Rhea thanks to Dom and the Judgment Day getting involved so Rhea doesn't lose clean. Correct. That is very much the plan. Gotcha, Danielle. I didn't read that message at that time. Cecil says it's not a WrestleMania match. And also thanks, Corey, which I appreciate. That says my predictions for tomorrow. Punk, Liv, Roman and Cody all to win. Danny says, good evening, Tom. Hope everything is well, my friend. Doing well, thank you. And Calvin says, Waller versus Fury has potential to have the feel and brutality of Matt versus Jeff at WrestleMania 25. But would it be? Spider-Boss says, I think Liv should interact more with the Raw Women's division more often instead of just being with Dom. I agree. Spider-Boss, give me a couple of feuds that you want to see with Liv Morgan. One says, according to Brandon Thurston, he said, although AEW having the max streaming deal is good, he also noted the fact that it's at a discounted rate basically means Warner Brothers doesn't trust AEW money-wise. Doubt he said that entirely. I'd imagine there's some phrasing differences there. Sid says, will there be any NXT call-ups to the main roster anytime soon? Yes. Around WrestleMania time. Let's talk AEW for a second. AEW have a new $900 million, thereabouts, TV deal, which means that we haven't quite reached the $1 billion that Tony Khan was looking for in order to become full-time profitable. There's a number of different factors in this, and I can say AEW right now are still not technically profitable. They're also not expecting to be as early as 2025. There are some structural changes that are still to come, and there's also potentially other TV deals to discuss. This is the Warner Brothers Discovery TV deal, but there is more to discuss and potentially more deals that haven't yet been announced that we have to consider. So there may well be a lot more money coming in to the AEW coffers. Tony Khan has basically won this one. He's got what he was looking for. He refused and rejected a couple of offers and got a much stronger offer that came back. So in many ways, he's been a very shrewd negotiator here. Dave Meltzer is suggesting that we will see multi-million-dollar profits in 2025. I don't think he's actually thinking that through. The estimates he gave don't account for any change in numbers for new contracts. With the new TV deal, the actual money people can earn is expected to go up as well. Individual stadiums booked, because as they increase their touring schedule, it will mean more outlay with that. And also the new international shows. International shows are going to cost them quite a lot of money, including, for example, the Australia show and more work with the UK. These shows cost them a lot of money, and it does mean that the money that Dave Meltzer is quoting is not quite accurate. However, long term, they are looking to change the business model for international shows from what AEW are currently doing, where they pay to go internationally, to what WWE are currently doing, where they get paid to do so. They are expected to become profitable, but there are some changes that need to be made. They will need to, for example, either cut the roster or reduce some of the contracts in order to reach the savings that Dave Meltzer is quoting. There is still a lot of spend, and in order to be profitable, you also need to clear your debts, which I don't think has been considered yet. 5 years so far, they have not been profitable. They're not quite there yet, but what I will say is that this is an incredible achievement for a show that at the moment, the ratings are not as strong as they have been in the past, and does show that while a lot of people are saying, oh, they'll get no deal because of the ratings, it is simply not true. AEW is still providing a very good product. It is the best competition that the WWE has had in a long time, and its longevity is one of its greatest strengths. The recent batch of free agent signings, Will Ospreay, Kazuchika Okada, Mercedes Moné, have proven effective. And while I do feel that Tony Khan hires too many people, When he gets it right, he gets it really right. Bam Bam says, can we expect Clash at the Castle in Ireland next year? We cannot. Razar says, with Netflix getting all the WWE shows internationally, will the show pacing for them change since Netflix will have a commercial-free option? No. Peacock also has a commercial-free option. There will be no change to that. Maggie says, Tom, is it true Roman's in the Royal Rumble? I've been speaking about it for a couple of months now. My expectation is that Roman Reigns will indeed be in the Royal Rumble. Daniela says, I'm hoping the Bloodline lose the titles tonight, so do you reckon it happens? No. Sorry guys, just catching up. Michael says, Drew and Punk should have a bracelet on a pole match. I'd rather we all just move on, to be honest. Sean says, NXT did almost 1 million viewers on the CW premiere. They did. I would expect that number to drop again now and go back towards the 600,000-700,000 mark. But it's still quite an achievement and a very good number. Spider-Boss says, Liv Morgan versus Raquel Rodriguez. Liv and Raquel were tag team champions until Liv got injured last year. Now Liv joined the Judgment Day. Let's not forget Dom costed the women's world title to Raquel at Payback 2023. So your immediate suggestion is someone who's been unavailable and injured the entire time. You suggested you wish Liv Morgan had more feuds with the women's division, and you've suggested immediately someone who she could not have at any point have had a feud with. I want you to try again for me, mate. Spider-Boss says, how much money WWE got for the Netflix deal? That is not what we are discussing at this point in time. Michael says, Wrestling Observer reported if Shockwave is a thing, it would happen on Tuesday or Thursday. I don't really like back-to-back days. I like a day or two in between, but it's exciting nonetheless. To be clear, that doesn't really sound like a report. Spider-Boss says the Mercedes Money effect. Mercedes returned to TV this week and there are more women featured on TV. Mercedes Money is getting a lot of acclaim and plaudits backstage in AEW for ensuring that more women do get opportunities. She made that promise when she arrived. She's kept her word. Daz will be talking about the Chamber shortly. Calvin says, I'd love to see Ken Shamrock, Sable and Christian in the Hall of Fame. It's time. Daniel Price says Avatoni is a moron. Okay, so to be clear, it's a good deal. It's a very good deal. It's a huge increase on what they were getting previously. It's at least 3 times, possibly 4 what they were getting. It's a huge increase. As I say, there needs to be some infrastructure changes, and Tony Khan is of the belief that you need to spend money to make money. That's the only reason they're not quite profitable yet. King Az's predictions are CM Punk, Nia, Damien, Liv, The Bloodline, with Jacob Fatu pinning Roman Reigns. We have 96 people here, 45 likes. 5 more gets us to 50. A lovely round number that means around half the people here have clicked that button. Every like matters. If you can, please consider hitting that like button. Chris's predictions for Bad Blood are CM Punk, Bayley, Roman and Cody Rhodes, Liv Morgan and Finn Balor. Daniel says if they were providing a good product, they wouldn't have lost literally half their audience from the debut episode of Dynamite. Over the course of 5 years, all TV is down, and that does include WWE programming. It certainly does include AEW programming. They did peak with the arrival of CM Punk, and it has dropped since. However, that is not guarantee of a quality product one way or the other. Viewing habits are indeed changing, and everything is down. Everything. There's plenty more things to discuss, but to be clear, when it comes to providing a good product, I do think their retention rate is the issue, and that's one of the reasons they do struggle for ratings at times. Welcome, Wiggly. Good to see you. A 36th month total. 3 whole years. Welcome to the show, mate. Good to see you. Marcel says, who do you expect to be inducted into the Hall of Fame this year? To be clear, they wanted to induct Bray last year and were told no by the family, so I wouldn't put money on it at this point. I can if you want, Daz. Wrestling Days has done a lot for me, so happy to return the favour and say Wrestling Days puts on a great show, and if anyone is of a mind to watch those watch parties, they're very much worth your time. Sean says, thoughts on Trick Williams becoming a 2-time NXT champion? I would expect Ethan Page to be turning up elsewhere shortly. Spiderboss says, Zelina Vega versus Liv Morgan, which indeed happened. Michael says, come January with Dynamite Collision simulcast on Max, I'll be cancelling cable. Ratings talk will be moot. Fair. And Wiggly says, I'm hearing The Rock is in Georgia this weekend. He is indeed. Page has not left AEW now. Millennial Noob says, Will WWE hold a PLE in Russia? No. Ray says, what is your favourite wrestling game? Mine is Legends of WrestleMania. WrestleMania 2000 on the N64. Aaron says, who do you see as the first two for the Rumble? Have you heard any ideas about it? No, because it's not finalised anywhere close to this point in time. Bailey says, will there be a watch party tomorrow evening? Yes, there will. We'll be watching the entirety of Bad Blood right here in this channel, and if you're interested, check it out. Rosar says, did you catch anything from NXT CW debut? It was a fun show and had a cool vibe of NXT being in an arena. I did. I watched that one. It was great fun. It was great fun. No worries, Maggie. Appreciate that. Marcel says, who do you have winning the rubles? Try again, Marcel. Not quite sure what you're saying. Corey says, are you still just going to hold talent on ice, though? I honestly hate them doing that. More on that later, but at this point in time, yes. He wasn't intending to keep people, but from what I've been told, now that he's got more money coming in, he knows he can afford it. Thank you, Shargame. As a question, I'll bring a question back. This is a question for everyone in the chat, so please drop in the chat what your responses are. Shargame is asking, if you can take a superstar from the 90s and bring them into today's WWE, but you have to swap them with a current star, who would you pick? He has chosen Shawn Michaels being swapped for Drew McIntyre, meaning, for example, we'd get Drew McIntyre versus Diesel way back when, which I think would be fun, but we could have Shawn Michaels in his prime against CM Punk, which is not a bad shout. Personally, I'd go very classical. Bret Hart for AJ Styles. I think you'd get great work from both of them in this current era and in the classic era. And I think the WrestleMania 12 Iron Man match between Shawn Michaels and AJ Styles would be even better. Wiggly says, any idea what the timeline is for Asuka returning? A while yet, mate. A while yet. Corey says, if you're not going to use a talent or they just do not want to be there, just let them go. I agree. Okay, so you raise a good point, Daniel, and I appreciate this. This is a well-informed back and forth. I appreciate you. There is part ownership in AEW from Warner Brothers Discovery, and you're absolutely right. That does mean that Tony Khan will be returning some of that money. That's another reason that the estimates from Dave Meltzer are very questionable. It is a very good point. What I will say is that other TV deals that were offered, particularly outside of the exclusivity period, the current deal, even with that money back, earns them more money than the other deals that were on offer. So again, not quite profitable, but with that as a long-term intention. And you do raise a good point about them having to return money to Warner Brothers. So I appreciate you for that. Now, again, I don't necessarily agree with you, but it's a very informed opinion, so I appreciate it. Calvin says, Roman, Solo, Orton, KO, Theory, Waller are my final 6 in the Rumble match. We don't really do final 6s. Cecil says the video of Punk, Shawn and Hunter after NXT was amazing. I think if we saw that 15 years ago, Punk back and Triple H and Shawn running things, mind-blowing. KJ says, what's up, Tom? What's up, KJ? Next piece of news, also about AEW. The Hurt Business are indeed reuniting. We've seen confirmation in the past couple of days of what I've already reported. Bobby Lashley and MVP negotiated actively at the same time for AEW deals. It will take a little longer for Bobby Lashley to arrive because of his non-compete involvement. Shelton Benjamin has now arrived as well. A new Hurt Business will be unveiling shortly, but Bobby Lashley, the Almighty, will be treated as a very big deal. I'm excited to see what they can make with this one. I also want to touch on the Lucha Brothers and the Motor City Machine Guns. Now, we did say, as regards both of these reports, which came from PW Nexus, we will be keeping an eye on them, and if they're proven correct, we'll certainly start to believe what PW Nexus are putting out there. So far, not so good. The Lucha Brothers, which apparently had signed with WWE, haven't. They're very much still under contract with AEW and under contract for a while yet, so it wasn't even close. As regards the Motor City Machine Guns, it wasn't confirmed by Pro Wrestling Nexus, but it was suggested that they'd turn up on the first show on the CW. They didn't. So with this in mind, I think we have to raise some questions about their sources. I don't like being the person to do it, but someone has to. We will wait and see what else they report, and then make some decisions as to whether or not we are willing to believe it. Because the Motor City Machine Guns might well still turn up in WWE, but when you report that someone signed, and it's months before they can even come off their current contract, I have questions. Wiggly says, does that mean Raw in the UK will no longer be on TNT? Raw in the UK will be on Netflix. This guy says, did you see the interview where CM Punk was asked who from NXT would be in a new straight edge society? His answer was, they don't work here yet. Yeah. It's a revival. It's a revival. Spider-Boss says, I thought Sammy vs. Gunter would be on Bad Blood, but WWE put Sammy vs. Gunter on a random Raw. The first Raw on Netflix is not a random Raw. Maggie wants Roman to win the Rumble. It'll be Roman's first Rumble in 5 years. KJ says, joined and heard someone debating AEW's ratings. Ratings isn't that big of a deal, especially now that they signed a new deal. If you want to talk about something that matters, look at attendance, which is also a fair thing to raise, which Daniel, I can see you've connected to that one. Chris says Bailey's 33-5 in 2024. Good spot to be in. And Sid said the YouTube stream is going perfect. Thank you, Sid. I appreciate that. Sai says, apparently I missed this. Bad Blood tomorrow starts an hour early as usual, 11 p.m. UK time, not midnight. I was aware of this and I'm thrilled by it. I will be going live at 10 p.m. UK time tomorrow. So with an hour left of the pre-show, we will be going live. Same time as spoiler warning. We'll be starting the same time as spoiler warning starts. Maggie says, love Daisy's very funny. Cecil wants to swap Kevin Nash for Damian Priest. Oh, I can see what you're going for there. One thinks Hulk Hogan for Roman Reigns. Hulk Hogan would not make it. Would not make it in today's society, today's wrestling. King Azza says Stone Cold for John Cena. Marcel says I have Stone Cold swap with John Cena, so a couple of them. Chris Leclerc wants to swap Stacy Keibler for Bayley. Bayley would have no one to wrestle against. She'd be a great wrestler with no one to work with. Rabbit says when AJ returns tonight, will he be face or heel? I expect him to be a heel, pushing on the fact that he used to be a heel and then slowly turn face. Maggie just says Drew's a killing machine. Blues aside, Tom, do you think Gunter Sammy's on Raw because they'll run it back at Crown Jewel? If so, my prediction would be right. More on that shortly. I've mentioned it a couple of times, but I just want to reiterate now that Dave Meltzer is also reporting it. A couple of weeks too late. KJ says, any reason why Triple H didn't try harder to keep Bobby? A couple of different reasons. They were of the opinion that essentially he didn't want to be there. They weren't willing to give him what he wanted. They weren't willing to let him work with UFC. They just came to an impasse and he didn't feel wanted. Corey says there's zero news or boozer, in reference to PW Nexus, also points out that PWInsider confirmed the Motor City Machine Guns, which is true and something we should be factoring in. A lot of people forget, whenever PWInsider report, for example, oh, the Bloodline are going to be the main event. A lot of people forget PWInsider also on reporting AJ Styles will be back many weeks ago. We do have to keep track of these things. Just staying caught up. KJ says maybe the Motor City Machine Gun show up on next week's NXT since there's a tag title match. Chris also says the same. Calvin says, do you know why WWE main event is no longer on TV? Used to air on WGN America. I have no idea. I imagine WGN America simply no longer pay their bill. Mr. Sumwell says, who is your tribal chief? You know it as well as I know it. It is Roman Reigns. Shah Game says, you cannot throw that Revival breadcrumb out there like that and not give us some more. What more is there to give? The Revival are they're quite early into a long-term AEW contract. So they're happy. Oh God, there's so much going on. KJ, yes, they did. It was a little before Punk was fired, which was awkward for everyone involved. Corey says, as regards PWInsider, that WWE is making merch. I think they were going to go to WWE. TK decided to add time. That was the intention, and to be clear, I believe it was WrestleVotes who reported that merch was being made. Oh, congratulations, Kelly. Follows me too. You have something extra in common. Corey says, Motor City Machine Guns, I think, are done. Just no reason to throw them on the first show when there wasn't really a tag team spot on the show. Yes, and while that's true, it was an illusion that was happening. Not an illusion, an allusion. It was alluded to. Leon says, I wonder when Shinsuke will be back. He hasn't gone anywhere. Yes, H-Car. I don't necessarily think Wrestling Days reports news exclusively, as in puts behind the stage gossip out there. I think Wrestling Days re-reports. I don't want to put that pressure on him. Because as someone who does report exclusive news, you get a lot of shit. And I don't want to put that pressure on his shoulders. Corey says, does Ricky Stark's contract end before 2040? Yes, it does. Blue says, what do kind of PR the wrestlers have to do annoys you the most? I don't understand what you're asking there, Blue. Could you clarify it all? Sid says, who's the greatest IC champion of all time? I like The Miz. I know it's not a popular answer. I like The Miz. Spider-Boss would swap Lita for Tiffany. I don't know why it's an hour early, Wiggly. I believe they're getting out of the way of a different event. Wiggly, I've shared my Royal Rumble predictions last week. Spider-Boss says, remember in his last interview, Lashley said Vince always got him well and that never happened with Triple H, and Triple H has his guys. I did mention previously, before he actually openly said it himself, Bobby Lashley was a Vince McMahon guy. And Genetic says, yo. Gene Blast indeed. Blue says, how shocked were you by Julia losing? Felt to come in with both title match being on the debut show. Shocked, but in a good way. Keeps it interesting. Lever Mike says, Tom, you're very good at what you do. What's up with the crapping on everybody else in the industry? Not everyone gets everything right. They deserve some grace. I can't say I'm crapping on everyone else in the industry. I don't agree with that in any way, shape or form. What I'm doing is encouraging people to make sure that they remember things. That's all I'm doing. I've literally, at the beginning of the show, talked about the PWInsider report about the listing. I talk about when individuals get things right. There are different people, for example, Dave Meltzer, when he's talking about wrestlers from a previous generation, spot on. Absolutely spot on. You cannot argue at all with what he's doing when it's a wrestler from a previous generation. You spot the trends. If you do feel like I'm crapping on everybody else in the industry, I don't believe I am there. I do have a lot of patience and a lot of credit for a lot of different people, and I try to give a lot of credit. My personal belief is that Brandon Thurston is the be-all and end-all and absolutely beyond reproach. For example, I share a lot about Rick Ucchino, who's just got a job with Sports Illustrated. He's been looking for that for a long time, and he's getting really good interviews right now. I really think you guys should check him out. Stephanie Chase as well. I don't crap on everyone else in the industry. If you believe that, I'm a little disappointed, and I need to actually think about what I'm doing here. Corey, Ricky Starks didn't quite go that far. Nothing on Hall of Fame as of yet. Age card, haven't heard anything about it. Typically, Triple H keeps his cards very close to his chest. Cecil thinks Chris Jericho is the greatest IC champion. For age card, it's Honky Tonk Man. Interesting. I won't be getting snacks, Sid. I don't eat when I'm streaming. Just don't do it. Word of Wrestling says, Tom, did you hear about Vince doing another documentary against Netflix? It does very much sound like Damage Control. And not as in the faction. Calvin, I don't know yet. We're still too far out from it. Chris says, I predict Roxanne Perez will lose her NXT Women's Championship next year at Stand and Deliver. Corey says, Tom, could we please get an Austin Theory FaceTime before 2040 also? Word of Wrestling, I do not expect to see The Rock tomorrow. And Blue says, no worries, I'm asking the type of PR activities wrestlers are asked to do you dislike the most. Like the videos for the PLE locations, rah-rah TV speeches, etc. Wrestlers are rarely asked to do rah-rah TV speeches. Typically, if they do that, it is a case of them wanting to go out and do that. Edge, the Revival, for example, for AEW. There are moments when they do for WWE as well. When it comes to PR stuff, it is mostly appearances at sports they don't enjoy. That, for me, is a big giveaway. I know a lot of people who were told to essentially, hey, go and watch this football match. Okay, but I don't like football. It's just very awkward for everyone involved. Rizal says, WrestleMania in Vegas next year. Has WWE considered doing something in the Sphere? The Sphere is far too expensive. Joey says, what's the plan for this Roxanne and Cora Jade pairing? They're going to give it time, but essentially it's just Cora Jade will protect Roxanne from losing the championship. Appreciate that, Maggie. Appreciate that, Cecil, as well. HCar says, do you think we see any returns at the Royal Rumble? Yes. Marcel says, I have a night shift tomorrow, so I'll be there at the watch party, but I can't really participate in the conversation. We'll listen to it as a podcast. I appreciate you for that. Sid thinks Bret Hart is the greatest IC champion. Dylan says, why do people think because The Rock is in Georgia, he's going to show up at Bad Blood? People are excited. People are excited. Shark Game says, WrestleVotes report the inaugural Raw on Netflix will take place in LA. True. I don't have anything on that one, unfortunately. I cannot confirm. Next up, we're going to talk about a WrestleVotes report. Now, WrestleVotes is currently working with Sportskeeda, basically taking up a similar role to what I was doing in my time at Sportskeeda, and they have reported, and I can confirm, that next year's UK WWE PLE will be Elimination Chamber in March. This is good news. I can state that the London Mayor Sadiq Khan is still working to bring WrestleMania to London and to Wembley, but there is a huge gulf at the moment in the cash on offer. There are two cities currently trying to get this deal over the line that WrestleVotes has mentioned. One of them, however, is much more likely than the other. The most likely destination for Elimination Chamber is Manchester. WWE has done very well there in the past, and they currently have a strong working relationship with the football club Manchester City. There is, as part of that, talk of WWE hosting events in Manchester City-owned arenas. And that is something that we've talked about previously on Martin's channel, on the Manchester City side. Birmingham was mentioned, but for those that don't know, their council is not doing well and is thus unlikely to be able to afford it. With that in mind, I definitely think Manchester is the most likely to host Elimination Chamber in March. I can also say that Dave Meltzer has confirmed my report. Sami Zayn versus Gunther is being kept off the Bad Blood card in order to create additional excitement for the Netflix move. It will be this week's Raw upcoming, and it guarantees a lot more excitement about every individual Raw when they're able to give high quality matches. There is and has been for a long time, as I previously mentioned, overflow matches from PLEs, which gets pushed out onto the Raw and SmackDown because TV at the moment is simply considered more important than premium live events. We have 100 people here watching at the moment, 57 likes, 3 more gets us to 60, so please consider. If you also haven't done so already, hit subscribe. We do these shows every Monday and every Friday, and hopefully, if you're enjoying this, there'll be plenty more that you enjoy with the next one, so be sure to give us a chance. Spider-Boss says it was weird Cora helped Roxanne even after Cora costed Roxanne the title in 2022 versus Mandy Rose. Yep, nobody really knows what's happening just yet, but you're not supposed to. Scorpio says CM Punk versus AJ Styles will be fire in the future. Sign me up. Both men would be very excited by that. King Adler says, I think Julia's match of Roxanne reminds me of Roman versus Cody from WrestleMania 39. Finish was deflating, but it made sense from the storyline. She can chase Roxanne, then dethrone her next year. Blue says, Tom, I don't know how much we should trust Dave on wrestlers of past generations. We always took it as gospel, but that's because we thought he always knew his stuff. Pretty much everything I've dug into, 100%. 100%. His contacts are all in that previous generation. HCar says WrestleOps reported Chamber is coming to the UK. To be clear, WrestleOps re-reported it. WrestleVotes initially reported it. Corey says, wait Tom, who returns at the Rumble? I've spoken about a number of different people that I expect to return at the Rumble, so might be worth checking out. Jonathan is asking what the main event of Bad Blood is. PWInsider have reported it will be the Bloodline match. PWInsider, typically when it comes to the match allocations, get it spot on. Blue says, Tom, I just want to say thanks for these shows. You've really given people a space where they can talk and learn about wrestling. That's unlike any other. Thank you. I appreciate that, Blue. I'm very grateful for that. We are doing very well right now, and I think people are really enjoying what we're putting out there. We're approaching 7,500 subscribers. At the start of this show, we had 7,414. And over the last month, we've gained more than 600 new subscribers. So things are going extremely well. A lot of that is down to shorts. Shorts are doing particularly well right now, though I have had to sort of convince YouTube that I'm not AI. So not every short is doing brilliantly, but over time, I should be able to rebuild that just in time for Bad Blood, when the search traffic will certainly lend a lot my way. Things are going well, and a lot of that is driving traffic to the videos. 20% of, well, just under 20% I should say, of the views on my videos right now are coming from shorts. Literally redirecting people, so it's a lot of people giving them a chance. The retention rate's up, everything is going brilliantly right now. So, thank you very kindly for that, and thank you very kindly all of you for giving me that show. Spider-Boss says CM Punk versus Roman would be good considering all former Shield members can't stand CM Punk. Literally all of them. Razar says, will the UK Elimination Chamber be in a stadium? Won't it be cold during that time of the year? They've not even confirmed the city yet. We will wait and see what else happens there. Maggie says, wish I had money for Manchester, but WWE tickets are very expensive. They very much are. HCar says, do you think WWE will ever host a pay-per-view in Ireland? Yep, before COVID they were planning to host an NXT UK takeover Dublin. Calvin says, good feuds for Austin Theory, Matt Cardona, Ricky Starks. So your good feuds are people who are not here. Shark Game says, since they teased Delta debuting at Halloween Havoc this past week in NXT, when do you expect Stephanie Vaca to show up in person before that? Daniel Garrity says, didn't you say Julia was going to be NXT Women's Champion? Yep, she will be. I stand by it. She's going to be. Just because she didn't win then doesn't mean she's not going to win it. We have news on WWE interest in a prominent figure from Ring of Honor, currently under the AEW banner. First thing I want to do, before I get to my next piece of news, is ask you who you think it is. So, WWE are very interested in signing someone currently wrestling under the Ring of Honor banner, whom they have been led to believe has a contract that's going to be running out relatively soon. I want you to drop in the chat who you think it is while I go through my next piece of news. Mercedes Moné was indeed positive about Vince McMahon in recent interviews, although I will say mixed bag. She was pretty clear that during the time when she left the WWE, she wasn't feeling heard by Vince McMahon, though John Laurinaitis was one of the many reasons and the main reason that she left on the day that she did. I've mentioned previously that Vince McMahon and Mercedes Moné have a very positive relationship, and I can say once again, have not had. They still have a very positive relationship. While I can't say Mercedes Moné's opinion on whether she believes the allegations in question, there is evidence to suggest that McMahon was extremely careful about what he did or did not involve her in. McMahon is said to have been very, very careful when engaging with the women of his company and not so careful when engaging with the men of his company. His experience with Mercedes Moné was positive. He gave her the breaks that she was requiring. Essentially, she got whatever she needed from him, and it is still a strong relationship. That is one of the reasons she was more positive about him, while also describing a situation where she was not being heard by him. So, Spider-Boss says, I remember Stephanie Vaca mentioned she'll be there waiting for the winner of Roxanne versus Julia. Sai suggests Samoa Joe. HCar says, do you think Dustin Rhodes will lose any of the tag team champions? Yes. Maggie says, glad your subscribers are rising, Tom. Good to hear. Thank you, Maggie. Brad says Athena. Brian Johnson says Athena. Joey says Ember Moon, which is Athena. Blue says, I hope it's Billy Starks because she's awesome. Sid says, when do you think Cody will lose the title? Shortly after WrestleMania. Juan says Dustin Rhodes. Leon says Athena. Marcel says Ember Moon, who is Athena. Calvin says it may be Mike Bennett they're signing. Corey says Christopher Daniels. Cecil says Ember Moon, which is Athena. HCar said Dustin Rhodes, probably so Cody and Dustin can team up and beat the Bloodline. Corey says Colt Cabana. Olay, our local establishment is here. Welcome. Says hello, Tom. How are you? Doing very well, thank you. Welcome to the show. Corey says the Mountain Workhorse guys or whomever. Ray says I think WWE want to sign Brian Cage. The other Mike says Ember Moon, which is Athena. Shargame says Hijo del Vikingo. Corey says, could you just say no comment? Anyone could. People just keep deciding not to. Joey says, does WWE have interest in Vikingo? Maggie says, no clue. I don't watch Ring of Honor. Corey says, only Fightful watches Ring of Honor. Interesting. Calvin is saying Dustin Rhodes has gold dust. Michael says, first name that came to mind was Brian Cage. Well, I've got to say, most of you got that. Athena. WWE are interested in bringing Athena back to the WWE, firmly believing that she would fit in very well with the current crop of talent there and go on to have some fantastic matches. There's particular interest in work with Bayley long-term and work with Bianca Belair long-term, believing that Athena will fit very well with the athleticism of those individuals. Spider-Boss says, despite Vince never giving a top star booking to Mercedes, Vince treated Mercedes well backstage. Yes. He absolutely did. No question of that. Cecil says, the fastest hour of the week and a banger after banger, Tom. I appreciate that, Cecil. We're not quite done yet, just to be clear. Joey says, does WWE want Athena for the main roster or NXT? Don't have that information. Just know that they want to have her. Before we get to the last piece of news, I'm just going to check something. Will only be quick. So, I do want to see... Why does that never work? I do want to see if Wrestling Days is set to go live yet. Upcoming SmackDown Live. Okay, starting in 6 minutes. What I'm going to do after I finish the news here is we're going to raid Wrestling Days. Because I think most of you will be going there anyway, to be clear. So, why not? I think we're going to go over to Wrestling Days and say hi. Because why not? Now, the news hasn't finished yet. The show is not over, just to be clear. But I'm going to set that redirect so you know where to go. So you can go over and check out their stream and see what they're up to over there. Because why not? It sounds like it'll be fun for everyone. However, 5 minutes before they start, let's get to the rest of the news. Oh, we've got a few chats as well. Razar says, I'd love to see Athena back in WWE. HCar says, do you think WWE will do a Sheamus versus Finn Balor feud? Corey likes that idea as well. I do think that's a good shout. I think Finn Balor hasn't really been tested as they were hoping for, and I'd be excited to see what they can do with it. Kendall says, Days is how I found you. That's true of quite a few people. And I feel like because of how Wrestling Days launches its shows, this is a good lead-in. You do an hour here, then we transfer over to Wrestling Days, and he does the watch parties. That, for me, sounds perfect. Bit of tandem, bit of teamwork. I think that works. Maggie says, I do know Athena for her odd matches on AEW. Spider-Boss says, Athena's doing quite well in Ring of Honor. Next step for her is a match with Mercedes Money. I don't necessarily know if Mercedes Money will drop down to Ring of Honor, but I do think as her contract comes due, Athena will get opportunities higher up. Clever, Cecil. Clever. Multi-device. We do watch parties. So, here's the thing. Many of you watch Wrestling Days, and when it comes to watch parties, you're always going to prefer Wrestling Days. Fair play. Spare a thought during the PLEs for your old boy Tom Colohue, and maybe just open a tab in the background. Quietly, muted, just keep it there. I'd appreciate it, what can I say? Maggie says, I'd welcome Athena in WWE Triple H as any decent creative for her. And Corey says, Tony's going to have 30 years on injury time. I wouldn't get my hopes up on Athena. Shah Game says, apparently Conan has said Vikingo is no longer under AEW contract. Conan has said a lot of things recently, and maybe, just maybe, he should stop saying things, you know? Before I get to the last piece of news, the shorts have been doing extremely well recently. Over the course of the last 28 days, we've hit a record number of views. September was by far our strongest period in history of this channel. It was a massive success and absolutely incomparable. So far over the last 28 days, 254,000 views. If I just focus on September, 289,000 views, 650 subscribers. We haven't even hit 100,000 any other month, though we've come close at times. That is largely due to the success of the shorts and largely due to you guys. You guys made this happen. So a huge thank you to all of you as we continue to grow. I want to make sure you guys remember and are constantly reminded that you guys are making this happen. What I will be doing during the live show tomorrow, what I will be doing, as always, because it's Bad Blood, I know thousands upon thousands of people will be searching for WWE Bad Blood 2024. So what I'll be doing during the show, finding shorts that I can then publish, share, credit, and make sure that have the phrase WWE Bad Blood 2024 in them. Because you know, and I know, that they will get thousands upon thousands of views. And a lot of those new viewers who came over for shorts, they're still here. So good news. Spider-Boss says, does Triple H still want Samoa Joe back? Like the sun misses the flowers. Sid says, I'm disappointed we won't see a banger match of Bad Blood for Sheamus. Sheamus unlikely to really be on PLEs anymore. Corey says, rumour has it Tony's trying to add injury time to CM Punk contract. HCar says, I might pop in tomorrow for the watch party to watch the best YouTube streamer, aka you. Appreciate that, HCar. And Ole says, congratulations, Tom. Those are some amazing numbers. I appreciate that, mate. What I will say, reach out to me, remind me, let's talk shorts, because I think we can make it work. Maggie says, Tom is as bad as... No, not Tom. Conan is as bad as Rikishi. Last piece of news then is another report that WrestleVote has made clear. WrestleVotes have confirmed my reporting that Becky Lynch is still recognised as part of the WWE roster. I've mentioned a number of times that Becky Lynch is still considered part of WWE. She is still having some elements of creative plan for her, and the WWE do not at any point expect her to leave the company. So the intention, to be clear, is that Becky Lynch will still be part of the WWE roster. Whenever she is ready to return, she will be in action. It is a hiatus. She has not left the company. She is a free agent, but she'll be rejoining soon. Billy says, just here to say hello. Going to watch in the beginning because I joined late. Appreciate you, Billy. Appreciate you for doing that. And HCar says, you're lagging. Sorry to hear that, HCar. I would say refresh, but we're wrapping up soon. Spider-Boss says, I think the only one who won't return to WWE Mercedes and John Moxley, especially looking at how AEW book them. Yep, that's kind of the way it goes and kind of the way it should be. Spider-Boss says, if you see Pete Dunne, call him Butch. Why would I? The Becky Lynch channel says, it looks like Becky secretly re-signed. She hasn't. I can confirm categorically, Becky Lynch has not as yet signed a new deal with WWE. But the contract that is on offer has been made very clear. The WWE are very eager to have her back and are confident that she will return as soon as she is ready to do so. So, I wouldn't worry about it, but what I can confirm categorically, she has not signed a new deal with WWE. Kendall says, I'd like to see all the Bloodline turn on Roman. I know it's not popular, but he was a good heel. I say let the newly signed Bloodline join him. Interesting. And Maggie loves some Samoa Joe. We're going to wrap it up there. Say a massive thank you to all of you. We're going to send all of you over to the Wrestling Days channel. That is 97 people. Make sure to jump in there, say raid, and make sure everyone knows where you've come from. Until then, until next time I should say, until tomorrow, I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.